All right, we are live. Steve and Mike, how are you doing?
Doing well, Randy. How are you?
Excellent, thanks. Nice win last night by the Red Sox, huh?
It was good. Were you at the game? You're at every game I see on LinkedIn. Were you there?
Was not.
Good win.
Was not. Mike, you're a Red Sox fan, right?
Huge Red Sox fan. Used to work there in college. Did security there for a couple of years, and they were not good when I was there. But love the Red Sox. More of a Patriots fan now, but big Boston sports fan.
Steve, you're Cubbies, right?
Yep, Cubbies, born and raised in Chicago. So all of my children have now migrated to be New England sports fans in some level of fashion, but I'm still true to the blue. So
excellent, as they should. Anyway, all right. Well, everybody, welcome. This is episode number 49 of Tech Sales Insights. I am solo today. My co-host Dave Nour is out presenting to a bunch of clients at a conference in Lake Tahoe. So we'll look forward to getting him back. Anyway, so the topic today is today's data-driven rep. So lots of great content here. So for a CEO, CRO team, I don't know, there's probably got to be some in the industry, but Steve's been CRO. He's been at TechTarget, for 18 years, ever since he graduated Providence. And Mike Cotoia is CEO at TechTarget, and he has been there for, 19 years, Mike?
Yep, 19 years, yep.
And Mike obviously would not say it, but I did a little research, and since Mike took over as CEO in May of 2016, the market cap of the company has gone from 300 million to 2.5 billion. So I assume your board and shareholders give you nice bear hugs anytime they see you.
I don't know if they give me bear hugs, Randy, but I would say that growth is definitely from the team that we have in place here, and totally team mentality here. We got great leaders across and great employees, and just bringing up Steve being here for 18 years, what he's done and how he's led the business has been great. And we have people from across the entire organization that really deserve that credit.
Yeah, it's been, ever since Greg and Evan started TechTarget, it's been amazing to see. And it looks like I know you can't comment on the numbers, but it looks like the Wall Street analyst forecasts for next year are to do over 300 million in revenue, 100 million in EBITDA. So again, I won't ask you to comment, but I did ask your co-founder and executive chairman, Greg Strakosch, for a couple of comments on each of you both. So hopefully it's okay to say. He said, Mike is a amazing sales-driven, customer-focused CEO. Steve started his career TechTarget sales training program, worked his way up to CRO, responsible for all sales, customer success globally, and likewise has done a great job. So that in a quarter used to get you a cup of coffee.
Well, hopefully Greg's listening. Thanks, Greg.
There you go. Maybe we'll just kind of dive in here. So, Mike, maybe starting off with you. If we look at your background, so you actually started as a CPA at Deloitte, right?
I did. I graduated from Babson and went into my career goal. My dream was to be an accountant. And for a big six accounting firm, went to Deloitte and quickly realized I don't think that was my that career goal for me was probably not what I really wanted to do. Stayed there 3 years, got certified on the third year to the date, my anniversary, and resigned, and then ended up in sales roles, ultimately EMC. We moved to, I had to tell my wife we were moving to a suburb of Dallas for EMC. When she looked at the relocation package and saw it was Tulsa, Oklahoma, she said, that's a suburb of Dallas, huh? So we were there and ended up coming back working for an integrator with some ex-EMC guys, and fortunate enough to join Steve, Greg, Don Hawk, the other co-founder, Kevin at TechTarget in 2002.
Oh, great. And Steve, what about you? One horse the whole time, huh?
Yep, fresh out of PC. I openly say this story. I needed a job. I was a healthcare major, which, today of what I do, certainly wasn't any sales learning. And fell in love with TechTarget. Started out field role, territory role, bounced across coast for a couple of tours of duty, and settled in Massachusetts now for close to about 10 years. So great organization. Obviously, we really focus on the employees. It's a team effort, and we're doing some really good stuff here, which you highlighted.
Great, fantastic. And I Should also mention we not only have TechTarget as our guest, but they are also a partner and sponsor of Sales Community, the prospect and account intent sponsor of Sales Community. So maybe you can, with that, tell us a little bit about it. From what I know in working with you, I've heard great feedback from a lot of my CRO CEO friends that with the site that you have, I'll give it my layman's perspective, but kind of consumer reports. So anybody who wants to buy anything is going to go to your site, and you're able to see not only what company it is that is coming to the site, but actually who the individual is, which I can't think of any warmer lead than that. But you can probably articulate it better than I. Mike?
Yeah, I think I'll start and Steve, chime in. You really did sum it up. At the end of the day, our investment is in content. And when you publish and produce and invest in the right content across the enterprise B2B technology space, you engage with the right buyers, relevant, active, recent, and knowing what they're doing, Randy, in terms of looking at content. Am I looking at an all-flash solution, hybrid cloud? Am I looking at, cloud migration strategies? What endpoint security, cloud security? It's really important to capture those folks. So we actually provide, I would say we're the only people in the industry that have a true gift for the get with our audience members. They get relevant content. We have all their access to their information. I love the fact, I give this credit to Greg and Don and Kevin and the folks, we're a permission-based audience. So in the world of data privacy and compliance, being able to come on, know your audience. We own and operate the sites and communities. What we're gathering, permission-based, they're giving us all their information. And that's really big for us because having that first-party purchase intent driven by the content investments, permission-based audience, and then enabling our sales and marketing customers to leverage real-time insights, not only at the account, and I'm glad you said this, not only at the account level, but at the individual buying team member who's a permission-based registered member is really critical for our marketing and now really critical for our sales clients. Steve, yeah. I missed anything on that?
No, you hit it. It's Randy, the biggest focus, right, is the direct relationship with the audience, right? You don't come to TechTarget if you're a casual consumer of information. You're there for a very specific reason, right? So to your point around, hey, why are these leads good? Or to Mike's point around, why do these people, when they work their way through the sales process, why do they convert better? Well, it's because they're researching for a reason. And it's that relationship that we have with the audiences. Then when we transfer it over to our partners and technology vendors, their sellers and their marketing just sees more success.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Great business model for sure. And Wall Street has rewarded you accordingly, and the future certainly looks really bright. So let's maybe start diving in here. So, Steve, we're talking, so the evolution of sales from the time that you started at TechTarget to what you have going now, you've certainly seen a lot of change.
Massive, right? So, I mean, when I started, it was like you got dropped into a field role. You got a Rolodex of accounts. You had to figure out where to go focus and who to start with. Today, it's all about, that frontline SDR, BDR function. It's all about enabling those folks with tools and technology. It's about scaling and going after net new accounts. And, that's a big topic, I think, for sales leaders as a whole, right? A big focus of what's happened with respect to the pandemic is you're obviously looking inward at your customers to make sure that you're accelerating those customers and making sure they're staying with you. But you've got to find additional ways to drive growth. And, we've seen even within TechTarget, but also with all the customers we work with, that frontline investment today is really going to that SDR, BDR function and the investments that exist there.
Oh, that's great. And then, Mike, how have you seen that, SDR makeup change over the years?
Yeah, that's a good question, man. I mean, if we went back 5 years ago, we at TechTarget did not have an SDR function. We reallocated a lot of resources, put some really good leaders with Doug and Brian, obviously Steve, to say we have to build this up. And, it's changed a lot because the theme of this is data driven, right? You got these data driven sales reps now. Companies are investing in the SDR talent, the BDR talent, but they have to give them the right tools and technologies to go figure that. So, you always got to blend that, activity. I'm going to steal from Kevin Scannell, right? Activity always drives results. Like that's your number one thing. You got to build your relationships, get a champion. But you have to be able to leverage the right information and the right data to make sure that you're getting into the right account and at the individual prospect level early enough. Because we all know in enterprise sales and B2B tech sales, the sooner you get in there, the sooner you start creating your value prop, your positioning, protecting your margin, more predictability on the deal. So making sure that you have a data-driven mindset as a rep while building the relationships, while making sure your activity is flowing is really important. And we got an unbelievable team here. And then I would say on the flip side, after the deal is done, Steve's in the team through, we have folks in here, Annie and Heather and Dan, that really focus on the customer success, which is an extension. Like, they have to have the data to know what a running customer is doing right now. And we'll talk about some of the technologies on that. So we are ahead of that game, making sure we're providing the right service. And even through our acquisitions of Bright Talk and ESG and Xtelligent, they have the same model. It's really about that, leveraging data to make sure it's a great customer experience.
Oh, that's great. So Steve, for SDRs that you have at TechTarget now, what's your advice for them?
Well, look, I mean, Mike hit upon it, right? Activity equals results. I think the thing that we really focus on with our SDRs, right, is that you want to make sure that you're engaging with people in a very knowledgeable, forward way that shows that you're earning their time, right? The old ways of SDR actions where you loaded a bunch of, call it, guessing names and you put them in the systems and you just dial down. That's a thing of the past, right? You want to be actionable. You want to make sure that prospect understands why you're reaching out. You want to make sure it's relevant, right? And, you do those things and you certainly see the increase in the conversions and the opportunities. When we start our SDR function, it's about obviously that frontline, first line growth, right? Which is how much am I contributing on a net new year-over-year basis. But then it gets to when you go back and you look at what that customer's done after the first spend and after the second spend, it's about ensuring that you're in front of that customer in very relevant contextual ways.
Oh, that's great.
Randy,
go ahead, Mike.
Randy, it must have changed a lot since when you were selling, when you first got out of BC and went into EMC. I mean, give me some of your perspective, what you saw in terms of the sales teams back then to now. I mean, we didn't have the data that we have today, and you got to make sure you have the right data. I mean, you can attest to that. You run.
Yeah, it's insane. I mean, way back when, you have to, you use a phone. There was no cell phone. You would have to really go through the admins to get to, at the time, what was the data processing managers, were the people you're trying to get through to. You'd handwrite your follow-up notes and then give it to whatever administrator or secretary to then type those notes that would get sent. And then when I was in England for orders at the time, they didn't have faxes, so you'd have the admins. If it was end of the quarter, you had to get an order. You'd have an admin actually go and kind of have to send a telex, and people probably don't even know what a telex is. And then from the local post office. So it's just crazy. And what you can do now just with LinkedIn alone. So what you can do in probably 15 minutes on LinkedIn, it would be almost impossible or take you a week before. So it's just amazing what all the technology has done just to make everybody that much more productive, and certainly far better than I ever was. And for those watching, feel free to come in with any comments or any questions on anything. We got Tucker behind the screen pulling them up. So we have one from Jonathan. What kind of tools are you guys seeing SDR teams bringing on for their reps? Steve, maybe we'll start with you.
Yeah, so I mean, we leverage outreach, across our function, right, with specifically helping our sellers build more progressive cadences, right? Other tools are like SalesLoft, right? So I think those are probably two more defined leading SDR output tools that allow organizations to build scale as well as ensure that they're in front of customers the right way. We've also seen, right, that after you build that foundation, you got to think about how do I get the right data into those systems, right? So Randy had mentioned LinkedIn, right? You've got other, call it contact providers that you can import in, right? For us, we've got a lot of our customers that ingest the TechTarget data because they want to reach into active people that are right now researching. So the first step is building out that core foundation with the right platform. And then you're going to want to think about putting gasoline into that to make sure that it runs more efficiently and effectively for you.
Gotcha. And Mike, I think you also use Gong and Gainsight as well as some tools for your broader team as well, right?
Yeah, Steve and Doug and the team over here have implemented Gong. So, you get the recordings you can look up and really help curbside coaching, right, on your SDRs. The search functionality is really powerful. We can identify if we're in a competitive landscape, how many times it was mentioned, how the reps, positioned our stuff or deposition our customers, our competitors, and really use it to learn. And the goal is to get these guys better, right? So you got to invest in the tools and the technologies on that. The Gain site investment has been a good investment for our customer success team. They've done a really good job of really pushing that to understand, how a customer is trending, to get ahead of it early. You never want to lose a customer. We're very customer centric across the board. Our teams really care. And, I know a lot of companies can say that, but I would say we have an unbelievable sales team and we have an incredible customer success management team. They are 100% service, customer oriented, and they get to know the customers, their pain points. They act consultative. They work together, they become friends out in the market, and they just do a really good job. They care a lot.
It's great. I mean, these technologies, it's amazing. I mean, you had 10 years ago, maybe you had LinkedIn and Salesforce, and now, depending on how you look at it, there's hundreds or thousands of this sales tech stack and marketing tech stack. It's crazy. So really interesting. Steve, anything else on your sales team that you want to touch on that we didn't cover?
No, I think the thing just to mention, right, for folks that are out there. So we've obviously thought about our growth in two different ways. Two different main ways, right? One is scale, right? To Mike's point, right? How do you reach more customers? How do you leverage tools and technology to achieve that? For other sales leaders out there, right? I think you got to think inward too and say, hey, how do I get my sales reps better, right? And, we leverage tools and technology like Gong, like other tools where we're having our managers listen into calls, right? We're having them do live training off of actually utilizing data, right? And that really helps us with even being better sellers for our customers, right? So this whole notion of being a data-driven organization, it's foundational from a tools and technology perspective, but you got to make sure that you've got your sales leaders that truly commit to it. And when you do that, you'll see true results as well as change.
Yeah, that's great. And Mike, we're talking before, you've seen a lot of change on the channel side as well, right? In terms of kind of their sales motions.
Yeah, I think the channel's quickly evolving right now. Listen, on the legacy side, and thank God I had the benefit to work, after EMC, I worked for a channel, and I was a storage-focused national reseller. Had a really good experience there. And it's so event-driven. And listen, that's not to say that face-to-face is not relevant. We want our reps in front of people at the right time and making sure we're doing that. But a lot of the MDF and co-op dollars would go to, the face-to-face events. Channel partners would typically go out there, do a lunch and learn. You've seen this, Randy. Steve's seen it. We talked to the guys like, I got to call my customers. I got to get them to show up. I want to get 20 guys in here. I want to do that, which, listen, there's some value there. But the whole market has shifted from, I usually use the analogy from analog to digital, right? It's now data-driven, online. It's scalable. You want to be able to measure it. You don't want too much data because sometimes it can make it complex, and sometimes the data in, which is not the best data, does not help with the sales impact going out. But we're seeing the channel really develop into, how do I empower my sales guys? What are the tools that I can use within their respective territories? And what are the reasons to engage not only at the account, but as Steve and you mentioned earlier, at the individual buying team member? What am I going to say? How much information do I know? Because those customers or prospects expect the channel resellers and the channel partners to know more about them as a customer before they pick up the phone. And if you don't, you're done. And we talk about getting in front of that deal sooner. Gosh, in the channel market, that's 10 times. It's a margin-driven business. A lot of these channel value-add partners, MSPs, they have a lot of value to position in there. If they get in there early, it's the technology rollout, it's the services. They really can carve this the right way, and it's a true benefit. So we're seeing that move from a face-to-face exclusive to a digital online data-driven territory and account and individual buying team focused methodology. And I think that's going to bode well for the channel partners in the space.
Yeah, Randy, just to add to that real quick, right? So, to Mike's point, but also what we've been discussing, we've seen the last 12 months, just our relationships with our channel vendors, it's all about net new, right? And obviously, to Mike's point, they're going to go back, they're going to entertain the customers, they want to be in front of those customers, they want to upsell, they want to cross-sell, we all want to do that. But at the same time, right, how do I add net new logos to my line card? And how do I make sure that I then expand out with the multiple technologies and solutions that I can? And kind of what's gotten really hard for those folks is that the user now today online has full control, right? You think about what you were talking about as a sales rep back in the day, right? We were guessing, right? We were guessing around which account do I prioritize? Who do I call? Today, you want to know the account. You want to know who within that account is researching on what technology topic. You even want to know what the vendors are, the OEMs, the software that they're actually researching. So when you make that first call, you get 15, 20, 30 seconds to drive influence with that prospect. They more leads turn over that way. And, that's a really big thing that we're seeing a foundational shift right now online.
And Randy, that's not to throw a commercial in here, but that's accelerated our growth with our Priority Engine platform, because that's what customers want. They want to know the accounts, the individual buying teams. They want to make sure the permission-based audience members, that they can reach out to them. They can put it in their Marketo system or their Eloquast system. They're not going to get in trouble for them. They're relevant. They're recent. They're active. And we have a lot to say. You know what to say when you pick up the phone or you create some content marketing on the marketing side, because of all the insights that are captured. And that's been really the catalyst of our growth over the last couple of years.
That's great. And then, all right, Drew Pronko, we have a question. I'm a big fan of TechTarget Priority Engine. Are there approaches you've seen to be most effective when reaching out to prospects who are researching our products?
Steve, you want to start on that?
Yeah, I can certainly work on that. So Drew, certainly love to pick up with this on the side. I'll reach out to you and we can talk about what's working as well as how to further move this forward for you. Foremost, right, what's kind of unique, and Drew, you probably know this, is that for every prospect within Priority Engine, you actually understand and know what that person is researching on in real time, right? Where they're spending their time, the entry points, the information that they're consuming, and how vendors are standing up and driving more incremental success is that when they start to build their cadences of outreach off of that information, right? So for example, if you see that Randy's researching on ABC, your SDR cadences specifically reach out to Randy about ABC, right? Because they are highly contextual and very deliberate. And through that, we know that we've been able to produce, more conversions and more down funnel opportunities. And then, another thing that I often see is, our customer success team is willing to lean in pretty much on any scenario that you have an issue with or any ask that you might have. So please definitely leverage those folks because, they're working across, 600, 700 global Priority Engine customers now. And there's constant learnings that are getting shared across our teams around what's working and what's not. So we've constantly got a whole bunch of different updates that we're happy to share as you think of your progression.
And just to add on to that too, Drew, this whole thing about bridging sales and marketing together is pretty relevant, right? So what Priority Engine will also provide the sellers as well as to the marketing team are the early points of entry that these buying teams are looking at. So you might be looking at, your company might sell, cloud security solutions, but there are early points of entry that we know that will end up triggering a cloud security. Being able to use those points of entry, which we now have highlighted at the prospect level and at the account level, and setting up those cadences like Steve said. So there's a content messaging going out around that, how your company, really handles that early, as well as on the sales conversation. I would also say best practices are integrated. Integrate if you're using Salesforce, you're using, Marketo, if you're using Outreach and SalesLoft and things like that, you want to make sure you're integrated. Work with our teams to look to integrate it into the sales reps workflow. I mean, we've got a lot of tools out there that are out in the market. Sales reps don't like sometimes new tools. They like to be in their lane. Here's my information I want. And so when our customers are doing that and they integrate into their workflow, it just resonates. It's better attribution. It's just more effectiveness and is more usage.
Great. And I'll vouch, I had the pleasure of having Drew on my team at Sun and HP, and he is not a TechTarget employee, so certainly great question, Drew. I'm pretty sure he's at Microsoft now, but thanks, Drew, for the question. And for those watching, feel free to chime in with any other comments or questions. All right, Patrick Cleary. On the flip side, what have been the challenges TechTarget Priority Engine customers have experienced?
Yeah, you know what, Steve, I'll start with that. And then if you want to hop in, I think that's a really fair question, right?
Mhm.
So since March of 2020, every company has always had a plan to do a digital transformation. And now it's been accelerated. And I think, Patrick, I think a lot of companies go out there and they almost buy too much stuff. They have all the MarTech stack, their sales tech stack. They're going in here, and as I mentioned earlier, and I referenced, the data outputs are only as good as the data that you put into the thing. And so that's one challenge. And I think some customers do an unbelievable job. They really do. And this is not an easy job. You're talking about enterprise B2B technology sales, 6 to 9 month sales cycle. There could be 35 people in it. This is not a click to buy B2C type of transaction. We can easily measure it online. I think with the customers, we can see some challenges is the ones that are not fully evolved, or they're getting there in terms of how to leverage data and how to use it and how to show attribution. They might have some challenges across anything that they do. We're focusing on the tighter integration, the attribution, and things like that to make it easier for our customers, well, sales side and on the marketing side, to say, gosh, okay, we identified this, our marketing efforts are working, the sales outreach is working, we're seeing it. So we are working on those investments and those functionalities and capabilities for our customers, because I think that's the number one challenge, is evolving into a data-driven, streamlined, measurable, providing attribution. And when we get that, and we see a lot of customers doing a great job, and a lot of customers are really, that's their number one focus. How do I get there? Because every customer we're talking to, they're trying to modernize their sales and marketing efforts right now. And how do you modernize it? You start with, you got tools and systems, as Steve and Randy have mentioned, but you have to feed those tools and systems with the right data. And first party purchase intent data is the golden nugget. So now we have to make sure it's right in front of you.
Gotcha. Great question, Patrick. Thanks. So, Mike, before you're talking about your growth, and you've done really well with a few acquisitions, and of course, I got to highlight Duplessis and Bodie and Prigmore at ESG. So I'm sure you talk about that, but you've had some other ones as well.
Yeah, we made a few acquisitions this year. They've been really good acquisitions. We acquired Bright Talk back in December of 2020, just going into the new year, and right around the same time, ESG, which, Duplessis and Prigmore and Bodie and, Doug Cahill and John McKnight, great guys over there. And there's just a super team at Bright Talk. And then we had another acquisition in July, at the end of July, Xtelligent, which was run by Sean Brooks, who was an ex-TechTarget employee. And when we look at these acquisitions, because there's a lot of conversations being had, but what we look at for an acquisition is a few things. One, content. They have to have a good content strategy, because content drives engagement. Content helps our marketing departments. Content drives first-party purchase intent data. That is critical. And we have different levels of content. Our editorial focus. We have the deepest, widest, most effective, award-winning. If you look at their ASBE award awards every year, 25 awards a year on our editorial side. Bright Talk's platform is a content creation, webinar, virtual trade events, summits. Vendors are creating that content. And then you get ESG, which is validation content, really customized content, good stuff. Then we look at permission-based audience. We know Google's eliminating third-party cookies down the road. We know the bid stream data is going to be questioned under scrutiny. We want a permission-based audience, opt-in, that we own and operate. And then at the end, it throws off, what are the first-party purchase intent capabilities? Because third-party, as I mentioned, is getting really scrutinized. So when you have all that and the products complement each other, it's a home run. And that's really and we're very open with that in the earnings call. Like, that's sort of our formula that we use when we're looking at evaluate companies. And there's a lot of companies out there right now. And it's worked for us. And I think at the end, it's about providing the truth, right? Real and observed purchase intent data, not guessing games, not compiling different things together. It's a tough enough job for enterprise technology sales and marketing departments to really do their jobs. You don't want to muddy the waters.
Oh, that's great. So I assume then you still have a plan of where appropriate growing through acquisition as well in the future?
Yeah, we're always going to be opportunistic and look at the right, we have a lot of organic growth across, the three organizations that we have for, TechTarget, Xtelligent, ESG, and Bright Talk. if there's something out there that makes sense for the business and it fits into those, 3 buckets, content, first party, and permission-based audience, we'll look at it and we'll go from there.
So how do you manage, I guess, 2-part question for you, Mike, is around the culture, and then maybe Steve, then how you kind of merge the sales teams in. So Mike, just kind of higher level from a CEO perspective with culture and getting those companies onboarded. Do you keep them separate? Do you kind of bring them in the fold? Kind of how does that work?
Yeah, it's a good question. Culture plays a lot into the overall equation. I'm glad you brought that up. And, the culture that we see with, ESG, Xtelligent, like you look at Xtelligent, ex-TechTarget guys, we knew the business was run well, content driven, in the healthcare and IT industry. ESG, we all know the culture there. Go get it. Just get it done. Do a great job. Trusted advisor. And on the Bright Talk side, an incredible culture about their people, about their customers, about working together, and about succeeding and growing and winning in the market and doing it the right way. Right. It's really important about doing it the right way and make sure. So, we kind of let them run pretty separately out of the gates. We don't want to do anything to screw up the growth across all these organizations. And when we see synergies, where opportunities where we can leverage the data across everything, or we're doing something around fulfillment capabilities that we want to make sure we do, we'll look to make sure it benefits the entire organization. So that's what's in the culture. And so far, it's been a really good investment across that on not only the 3 financial metrics that we look at, but also the culture side.
So as you look at companies either in the past or going forward in the future, is culture kind of on the top 5 list? And obviously you can't name names, but if you looked at some companies that, financially or business-wise might have been great, but you just weren't comfortable with the culture fit?
Yeah, a lot of the companies, there's a lot of good companies out there, and I'll answer it this way. If we saw something that made a lot of sense, but the culture was going to be really challenging, you would have to think long and hard. TechTarget has built up an unbelievable culture. And again, I give that credit to, the people before me, like, Don and Greg and those guys, but now the people with us, building out there. We have folks across the entire organization, EMEA, APAC, customer success, editorial, products. Like, it's just an incredible culture that I've worked, as you mentioned, Deloitte, EMC, healthcare sales, integrator, always been good cultures. This is very different, Randy. And it's like everybody's in this to win this and do it together. And we're sensitive to that. We want to make sure we continue that momentum.
That's great. And knowing Alan Spoon and Roger Marino had been, longtime board members, they probably had some good insights around culture and the whole kind of spirit of the company as well, right?
Yeah, we have an incredible board. Christina Van Houten and Bruce Levinson and Alan when he was on, and Roger's still here, and it's just a really, really good board. Bob Burke, they give us some good advice, and they're focused on culture as well, and we listen.
That's great. Just want to make sure you didn't leave anybody's name off there, did you? Because you don't want to mess up.
No.
That's always the problem once you get on the path, right? Rattling off names. Like, who else did I forget? So Steve, to you then on the kind of where you're doing these acquisitions, kind of how do you treat that from on the sales side? Because you must have, if they've got their own sales force, kind of calling on the same account, and kind of how do you work all that?
Yeah, so we're lucky right now, Randy, where we're fortunate we walked into, to Mike's point, strong acquisitions. They've got great sales teams. We don't want to screw that up, to be very frank. What we want to do is give those folks the level of autonomy. We want to collaborate, right? One of the things that we've done well, in my opinion, is that it's all about helping the customer, right? And I know a lot of people just say that, right? But I want our sellers to be knowledgeable in their own areas, right? So if it's Bright Talk, they have expertise in webinars and video and live learning environments. If it's TechTarget, we have expertise in what we do. If it's ESG, we have expertise in content development and all that great work they do over there. And you got to maintain some level of specialty because that's good for the customer, right? Because they want knowledgeable in the field resources that can have the right conversations around the products and the value it's going to provide. And then on the back end though, right, I want those customers, even before they step into the field with my sellers, so that our sellers have an understanding of everything that's going on, right? So that they know the full campaign and what the goals are, so that they understand what their SDRs and their BDRs are trying to do at a top line organizational level. And we're doing that well right now. because there's really good homegrown collaboration that's happened across all of the teams. It's difficult, right? It's something that I've had to learn through personally, right? Because, as we've gone through acquisitions, you got to even change some of your leadership style, right? To help folks even further accelerate. So it's been exciting. It's been rewarding. And more so, it's good to see at the customer layer that they're generally appreciating the level of collaboration that's happening across all the groups and the sellers in the field.
Yeah, that's great. Sounds like a winning formula for sure. So, Steve, I'm going to put you on the spot here. So knowing Mike as I do, he's amazingly responsive from a sales perspective. There's one account I was talking to last week as I'm on the phone with the sales leader. I'm texting Mike. He's responding back real time, knowing what's going on. So, maybe good news, bad news for you, but talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I was fortunate that I grew up at TechTarget, and I mean that fortunate because, somebody who was honestly not even looking at a career in sales, I found my way into this and I generally enjoy it. The greatest thing that Mike has been able to teach me, it's that level of customer commitment, right? And actually being actionable, being responsive, always making sure that customer, if that need is identified, that you are there to tackle it. All right. And, a large, very big reason of TechTarget's success is that Mike grew up is with a sales background, right? He certainly manages the day-to-day operationally, but he understands the customer. And that's something that, as I like to think, has translated down to me. It's something that hopefully I'm helping translate down to all the wonderful people that I get to work with, because, if you don't have revenue, you got problems, right? And, fortunately, if you can manage your customers very, very well, and you're doing the right things, not everything's perfect. We know that, right? I mean, for everybody that we've worked with, you guys know that too. So not everything goes according to plan, but if you're there to really roll up your sleeves and make sure that the customer understands that you're willing to tackle the issues, things tend to turn out pretty well.
I'm going to comment on this. First of all, thank you, Steve.
Can I ask you?
Yeah, well, I'm going to chime in because I like to chime in. Because I could tell a story about all 970 people that work at TechTarget, but I know we don't have time for that. And Steve's, the best CRO I've ever engaged with. And I'll tell you a story. We tell stories about each other, and I'll give you how he is cut. So Steve came up here in the Windows media group, cut his teeth, did his thing, became, ran a couple global accounts, ran some of the sales, got moved out to San Francisco. After a few years, okay, I needed you back. He came back here, and about 3 months later, I said, Steve, I promoting you. And he goes, so what? I go, GM. He goes, oh, yeah, this is great. Where? I go, San Francisco. You just moved back 90 days early. And he goes, when do you need me? Give me a night to talk to Kate. Plan on it, but I might need 3 weeks just to do it. And I'm like, that's the type of guy he is. When they ask you to do, if it's good for the business and it's good for that, he's reliable. Team loves working for him. He leads the charge. He's an incredible leader. I learn a ton from Steve, along with the rest of the sales leaders and our publishing team. And, it's just a really good team. We learn from each other.
Great. You guys going to hug it out?
No, I'm in the office. He's working remotely today, so we'll do a virtual hug.
Yeah. All right, Jonathan's back. Thanks, Jonathan. When it comes to integrating a new product for your sales teams to use in their prospecting efforts, how long will you run a beta with the product before committing to it? And what kind of feedback do you look for from your team? So, Steve, probably to you.
Yeah, I can take this one. So, Jonathan, I think, before you set a timeline, I think what's really important is all the stakeholders get on the same page about what you want to get out of it. Right. And then you work your way backwards from that timeline. So when we sit down with customers, right, kind of the first thing, what do we all want as sales leaders? Well, we want opportunities, we want conversation, we want revenue to fall. We all get that. However, though, there are fundamental things that need to happen along the way in order for you to really commit to a tool, right? One of the things that we will pay attention to, especially out of the gates, is kind of simplistic. Hey, are my sellers actually utilizing this? Are they spending time with it? Do they see value? And the partner that you're working with, right, you want them to be able to tell you those things. You want them to be able to commit to helping your sales reps accelerate, right, to spending time with the product. Then you start to look at other KPIs, right? So to give you an example, in our field with our product, everybody obviously wants pipeline revenue. We're going to get there. How many names are you adding to my database that are net new, right, that my sellers aren't aware of? that I can then call, right? That would be a common KPI that you could 1-2 step. So, generally speaking, we'll commit to 12 months initially right out of the gates, right? But when we commit to 12 months, we make sure that we have got a very tactical battle plan with specific KPIs around what we want to measure. And then look, it's never perfect. It deviates, right? You're going to find that some things are accelerating. You're going to find that other things, quite frankly, you need to fix or pay attention to. And then, what I often always pay attention to is it's the cutting room feedback at the sales floor. Are they finding value in this, right? Are they finding true tangible outputs that are truly making their lives easier? Then you got to define what easier is. Does easier mean, yes, net new opportunity creation? Does easier mean having better conversations? Does easier mean finding new accounts that weren't in your patch that you can pay attention to? Whatever it might be, right? But hopefully that helped answer your question. But, very, very specifically, you got to commit to it, and then you got to map out your plan to make sure that you can follow through with all the teams involved.
Great. Jonathan, great question. I just looked him up on LinkedIn. I don't know the company he's at now, but he's got some pretty cool DNA. He worked for the Boston Cannons and the Tiger Woods Foundation for the Deutsche Bank golf tournament, and was a sales manager of the PGA Tour. So I guess he's either calling on you, or he may be calling on you in the near future. So
he's in IT now, Randy, I believe. He's at A Identified LLC. So hopefully, it could be Jonathan may be a new customer of ours. So
there you go. Let's see. Oh yeah. So now, Mike, to you. So talk about maybe the evolving role of CRO. So you go back, there was kind of, VP of sales was kind of very stovepipe. Now kind of CRO is kind of branching out in some of these go-to-market areas. What do you see, Mike?
Yeah, I think the CRO has evolved a lot. Obviously on the sales and the global revenue side, but in our company, it's all sales operations, which drives a lot of our data that we're using, in our own systems, as well as in, across our reps, our customer success team, which is our, there's a customer success where we have an account director team that works with renewals and upsells with customers, making sure it's good. A customer success team that's really in the trenches with our customers, about great opportunity, great experience, and our customer success operations team, which do an unbelievable job on reporting, perception shaping, working with customers. They're all, like with anybody in front of a customer on our team. But it's also partnering with finance and making sure that they're working on a business strategy, on the budget and the forecast in the territories, our sales strategy and enablement teams, our product teams, our publishers that we have across the board, the analysts, like really understanding the business. They're business owners. Like they have to understand the whole business. It's not just about the number. Revenue drives everything and gets the things going, but you have to be aware of what's going on and make an impact across. Because a lot of the things in our company, like every other company, they connect in a closer bridges, alignment that you can have across these groups. They understand what's going on. They understand the customer, the internal side, the business side. It's just a good outcome. And Steve does a great job in that. And that wasn't the CRO a few years ago.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Anything you'd add, Steve?
Yeah, it's, the customer is different, right? I think we all got to acknowledge that. I mean, the customer today, especially in B2B tech sales, they can spend time with you. They spend more time without you, right? That's kind of the reality of it. And if you're that business, you got to understand that. How do you mobilize all of your teams to make sure that your customer has a wonderful experience? It's not just about your frontline sellers anymore, right? It's about how your frontline sellers are working with their customer experience department. What are the other resources that you need to plug and play into those relationships? How do you make sure that you've got your SDR layer, right? Because this is a big thing that I think a lot of CROs are focused in on and growing with. How do you make sure that they're doing the right things, right? We talked a little bit about that. It's not just about the tools and the tech. It's about making sure they're going after the right prospects. So I think the role of the CRO is really fundamentally changed, Randy, because the customers change. They expect a lot more out of organizations today, and we got to make sure we feed them. That's great.
And I'll put in a plug sales community. So everything that you just said there is one of the key foundations for sales community. So it's really I'll call it a one-stop shop for B2B sales professionals to ask questions, to share best practices. So for those that are not members, feel free to check out Sales Community. And just while I'm at it too, I always got to show the book once, but a lot of great content in here, a lot of CRO has been getting it for their team. So you can go salescommunity.com/book or at Amazon.
Great book. Great book, Randy.
Thank you. Moving on here. For both of you, certainly have had some great mentors. Maybe talk about any great coaching advice that you've received. Mike?
I think one of the biggest, I've had some really good mentors. And, I know you'd spoken to Greg earlier. He's, I've worked for a lot of good people. Greg has been my strongest mentor ever. And I got to meet him in college, did an internship for him. You never know when you're cleaning the office floors and the bathrooms and what that turns into later on. But he's been a great mentor. I think one of the greatest things I always got, and I think it was from Greg. I know it was from Greg. Eliminate the variables. Is it the opportunity or the person? And you know what? At the end of the day, you never want to second guess yourself. So if you see a good opportunity out there, put your number one person on that opportunity, because if it doesn't work, then you assess the wrong opportunity. And I've learned by falling down on this, where we've tried some things many years back. I think it was a pretty damn good opportunity. Probably didn't put the number one person there at the beginning, or the group of people there, and it floundered. And then we quickly pivoted, and he came back and said, put your best people there. I know that you're nervous about bringing them out from this role, but the opportunity is here. So eliminate the variables. Put your best against the best opportunities.
That's great. Steve?
For me, Randy, it would be my old man. Passed this year, right? So I get to give him a plug.
Sorry.
No, I appreciate that. I grew up with two things my old man used to tell me, right? Have a good work ethic and a good attitude. Really simple, right? You have good work ethic and a good attitude, and guess what? A lot of things tend to fall into place. It's probably why I started caddying at like the age of 12, literally humping a bag down a mountain for $16. That is something that truly has carried with me, right? It's also something that, going back to your question around culture, it's a big thing for us here, right? It's not just me, but I'm fortunate and lucky to work with a bunch of people who kind of believe in that too. And in sales specifically, right, for every seller, part of your teams, or anybody that's obviously looking at a career in sales or being successful in sales, you got a good work ethic, a good attitude, and things tend to pretty much fall in place with your customer as well as at the organization.
Oh, that's great. Very special. What about now? Any advice you'd give to your younger self? Mike?
Oh, God. How much time do we have?
Not much.
I would just say don't look back and stay focused on the present and the future. I used to have a tendency looking back, oh, my God, that FOMO, fear of missing out. Should I have done this? Should I have done that? Oh, my gosh. And it took me a little while to get through that. And it was like, stay the course, and that course can change, but don't look back. Learn, but don't look back, and don't live in the back. That's all I'd say.
Yeah, for me, Randy, I know we got a lot of folks on this that are more seasoned sales professionals, but commit to the career early. Don't look at it like it's a job, but look at it like it is a true career. I think it's one of the most rewarding things that you can do. I still think in schools and universities today, there isn't a lot, they're not really heavily focused on sales as a role, as a career, as an outcome, as like something you can truly sink your teeth into. And, I went through it, right? My first year or two, I was like, it's a great job. Believe me, if you can switch that mindset early, right, you certainly put yourself at a different level.
Yeah. Great perspective. So this may be awkward. So if Nour's on, he always says, any good Randy stories. So, maybe I'll ask that to Mike.
God, I got to be careful on this. You know what? I do have a good story. I don't know if you remember this. It was probably, 10 or 12 years ago. And we were setting up a meeting with a joint customer, and they were going to be at a hockey game. And you're like, you got to get down to this. This will be good for your business. I want to get you the introductions, the CEO, and we'll have all these other folks there. And I'm like, okay, great. And maybe you didn't say this, but what I had interpreted was, we're going to go watch the Bruins, but they're going to be in Philadelphia. So Flyers, Bruins. So as a season ticket holder of the Bruins, running around, I'm like, okay, talk to my wife. I gotta catch a flight. I'm going down tomorrow. We get this opportunity. And I get to the airport, and she calls me and goes, where are you going? I go, I'm going to Philadelphia and watching the Bruins Flyers. She goes, Bruins are playing the Penguins tonight at home. And I remember looking at you going, are we watching the Bruins game? And you go, I don't know, but we're going down for a customer. You assumed it was the Bruins game. I went, oh my God. I'm trying to explain to my wife, no, we're really going to the Philadelphia. We're going to the Flyers game. And it ended up being a great meeting. And I'm glad we did it. But I think I told everybody I was going to the Bruins and Flyers game, and we ended up seeing the Flyers Capitals. Oh.
There you go. That was Frank Roush, I think, was the one.
Yeah, Frank, checkpoint. He's a great guy.
And I think Ratmir was there from Veeam and some other great folks and a bunch of famous the Mike Milburys of the Flyers. I forgot what
Broadway Bullies, the Broad Street gang of the 70s. Yeah, Frank would kill me on that. I think Tom Chevalier was there as well. He was at Veeam. Yeah. He's over at HPE now. Yeah. And I've gotten to know him from that meeting on, believe it or not. That was he's a great guy.
Oh, that's great. So I really have enjoyed having both of you, and on behalf of sales community, thanks. We love having TechTarget as our prospect and account intent partner and sponsor, and look forward to having you down the road and obviously helping you sell as much as we can. So maybe for any closing comments, Steve?
Yeah, I would just say that, if you're focused on, I'll give a quick plug, right? If you're focused on net new and you're really focused on trying to scale and ensure that your sales reps are calling the right people at the right time, which I know is a very, very hard thing to do, right? We'd certainly like to have some conversations. And, even if you are a current TechTarget customer, you got to let us always know, push us, right? Help us make you better. And believe me, we're committed to it.
Great. Mike?
Yeah, I would echo that, and I would just say there's TechTarget today is continues to grow, and we are there's a lot to offer right now, from all the content investments to, I use the saying, content to close, right? Have the right content, create the right engagement, have access to the right people, and help our customers close. As Steve talks about the net new logos, it's also really important that if you have existing customers, you need to know what they're doing, because if you lose those customers, and it's going to take you a long time to get them back, and having those insights today and having the ability to mobilize against that, both on the sales and marketing effort, is really important. But I want to thank you, Randy. This was a great time, and I enjoyed it, and it was awesome.
Great. Thank you. And next week, we have, believe it or not, episode number 50 with Tanya Helen, who's a great sales leader. So we look forward to having her be live on Wednesday at noon. So Mike Cotoia, CEO of TechTarget, thank you. Steve Niemiec, CRO, TechTarget, thanks. Look forward to continuing to watch your success and help you here as well. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Randy.